Welcome to A Brief Pause, a dog podcast where we cover a variety of pet topics. And here we're continuing our conversation with Annie Grossman as we break down all the training terminology new pet owners may come across and how best to approach training your pet. The words that get thrown around on everybody's website, if you go looking for a trainer, so say you're in Missouri, looking for a trainer, you get a puppy. What are some of the first steps? Well, let me talk about the first steps in a minute. But the words that you're going to see, what should be the first things you're looking for, and what do some of these words mean? Behaviorist, veterinary behaviorist, uh, trainer, obedience, fear-free. What are some of those things that you see a lot mean?
Yeah. Well, behaviorist is a word that is confusing. Um, I think of it as like there's small b and big B behaviorist. I mean, I believe in the science and philosophy of behaviorism, and I think my practice is rooted in what I know about the science of behavior and associated technologies, but I do not have a specific degree that makes me a behaviorist. I don't generally call myself a behaviorist. I think of it as I'm a small b behaviorist. Um, uh, in that, yeah, I mean, it's just how I operate in the world. I think is as someone who likes to use the lens of behavior to dissect situations. But people often, oh, and then I should say there are what I think of as like B behaviorist. Um, I tend to use the word behaviorist when I'm referring to veterinary behaviorists. I know veterinary behaviorists. It's a very, very small specialty. I mean, small in that there are not very many veterinary behaviorists. I think there might be a total of like 70 in the world or something like that.
In the
They're basically,
world. Wow, I didn't
yeah.
even realize that.
Um, they are basically like psychopharmacologists for animals, and it's a complicated, nuanced, growing, but very difficult area of expertise, very niche area of expertise, right now. So people who are veterinary behaviorists are people who, beyond just being a vet, have gone on to obtain that specific certification to become like a behavior, um, I forget what it's called. Like I forget the exact
I thought it was just
what the
called veterinary
degrees.
behaviorist, but I'm
Yeah,
sure
no, but
it's
if you are a veterinary behaviorist, you're not just a vet who like likes to talk about behavior.
right.
You are a vet who has passed the specific test, and I cannot remember what the test is called. But yeah, it's a specifically certified veterinarian. Um,
I knew they were rare, and we're
yeah,
lucky to have one in New York, but I didn't realize they were the rare, like 70 in the world rare. That's crazy.
there are also board certified behavior analysts, who may have specialties working with animals. Um, they have master's degrees or higher and have done special research. So those are also people who refer to themselves as behaviorists, like I would say big B behaviorists. But by and large, if you're working with a dog trainer who is calling themselves a behaviorist, you might ask what that means. Because of course, all dog trainers are working in the realm of behavior, whether or not your first, the first turn on your highway is going to be thinking about behavior and thinking about like least invasive ways to change behavior, uh, does not really impact whether or not you could call yourself a behaviorist.
Hmm. So what are some of and what does like fear-free mean? That fear-free thrown around a lot these days.
Yeah, fear free is also a certification. I believe it's a fully online certification. I haven't done it. I uh, don't know a whole lot about the particulars. I guess you've done it, so you can fill in the listener. Um, but what fear-free what I understand fear-free training is all about is helping professionals who work with dogs, um, actually not just dogs, with animals, um, get those dogs to comply in grooming, husbandry, whatever, that they might experience at a vet's or at a groomer's, um, and get them to comply with whatever needs to be done with as little stress as possible. Ideally none. So that does not look like, you know, shoving a dog's face in a muzzle when they're going bananas because the vet tech is trying to hold them down, but rather like how can the tools be introduced at a way that at a pace and in a way that the dog can handle and can learn to do what needs to be done. I mean, some of the finest animal trainers of our time are trainers who some of them work with dogs, but many of them work in zoos, and in zoos, most of the training that goes on in zoos is to trying to help those animals be healthy. You know,
Oh yeah.
how do you brush a gorilla's teeth? How do you clean a giraffe's ears? You know, you could, I guess you could, and I'm sure some places do, tranquilize the animal and then do it. But there are incredible trainers who have broken these behaviors down into the smallest bits and trained them little by little over time, so that these animals can be cooperative in the care that they're getting. And so fear free is kind of like helping professionals learn how to do that, and how to notice signs of stress, and how to approach teaching these animals in a way that is, you know, as humane as possible. But I think
Yeah.
fear free is a certification. Um, so if you're saying like I am a fear free trainer or whatever, you probably, or if somebody says that, that probably means they have the certification, but somebody could be operating in that paradigm as well and not be calling them, not have the certification. I know one trainer who's like, I didn't do fear free. Like I was fear free before there was fear free.
It is
So
recent, in
yeah,
fairness. Like I've been grooming 25 years and I just did Fear Free a couple years ago. I think it was definitely around a few years before that. But like you say, it does sort of go along with, if you were already doing things like positive reinforcement, which is another term that gets thrown around a lot, and we can talk about
mhm,
what that is. But we essentially have been talking about what that is. It's not using negative techniques and punishment, but I want to
well,
talk about punishment
yeah,
as well in a second, um, to train. And so positive reinforcement, yeah, if someone was able to put this into a package and share techniques with other professionals and basically someone who decides to get certified in it. And I think it's great for like people new into an industry that maybe haven't had, and it's really popular in the vet industry. So I would say there's fewer groomers and fewer trainers that have it because I do believe, like you say, a lot of them are already going that way. Because you have to make the animal work with you in those
yeah,
fields, right? Like
yeah,
you have to, like I can't, um, people will say, well, like, why don't you use muzzles? And it's not that I never ever would in the past or anything like that. But the point is, how am I supposed to scissor their face? Right? Like I have to make them work with me or we're not going to get anywhere. And there are plenty of groomers with plenty of techniques and there's plenty to disagree about. But at the end of the day, in a perfect world, you want the dog working with you and you want it stress free and positive. And so positive reinforcement to me just makes a whole lot of sense
yeah,
to do that style. So yeah, I was already doing fear
yeah.
free
There's
before there
also
was
like
fear free.
I talk about Dr. Sophia Yin in my book. She was a renowned veterinary behaviorist. And she started the low stress handling certification program. So there are other, it's fear free has sort of become like the Kleenex of tissues.
Yeah.
But there are lots of ways to that there are lots of there are lots of paths someone may have taken in order to become a what I would say is a good groomer, a good vet, a good trainer.
Well, you do a really cool breakdown of a couple more of those words that we keep throwing out there. Um, that I'd like to see if you're able to in this brief amount of time that we have, the negative and positive reinforcement and the word punishment. You do a really
Mhm.
cool breakdown of the word punishment. Can you summarize that for us?
Yeah, well, positive reinforcement is very often misunderstood as about, being good and nice and all the things that we associate with the word positive, which is just an unfortunate bit of nomenclature, I would say, because positive as it relates to the word reinforcement, purely just means addition, means that we're adding something to the equation in order to encourage the likelihood that a behavior is going to happen again. And it doesn't even necessarily need to be something that one might think of as good. My podcast co-host Anna Marie Johnson actually did a really fascinating study, and I mentioned it in the book as well, about the different words different trainers use and how you can try and ascertain what kind of methods a trainer uses based just on the language on their website. Of course, what she found is like there's not a whole lot of consistency, unfortunately. But I
Well,
think it's
we're
a
in two very similar industries like
yeah.
that, where unfortunately the
We
first thing I tell people is like, do your research for who you can even, like, you have to know what you don't know just about the training industry or the grooming industry before you can even choose who you're going to listen to. And that frustrates me because when these hills become so big for people to climb in the beginning, that's
yeah.
my theory, is when they run to a Facebook forum because they're like, I can't, this is like too
Right,
much.
right. So what I've tried to do in my book is like break it down in like the most like easy to understand way that I know how to do, so that at least you're like a better educated consumer. And then if you decide that, you want to use punishment, methods that make use of punishment and methods that make use of positive reinforcement, like I can't make that choice for you, but at least like I think the person who reads my book is going to be like making better informed choices.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't even think of it that way, that if somebody reads this and then chooses to find a trainer, they're going to be way more equipped. Um, that's why, again, I'm so glad that you wrote this, because it seems like, telling someone that just bought a puppy, like, oh, read this whole book, seems like a lot maybe to them at the time when they're looking at like just a puppy class somewhere. Like, can't I just go to puppy class? But this does really set them up for then knowing what to look for moving forward, and even work on some things in between, and then just have it reinforced by an in-person trainer at some point in the future, or if they feel like they're getting a little lost or it's a lot of information. But also just even watching somebody do some of this stuff in person is helpful. And that's why, like,
Sure, yeah.
you know, reading is great and it's so good at changing a mindset or putting you in a mindset of what your goal is. And then you can be assisted along that journey by a professional, in person now and again. Or like you said, even just having like the day classes or something like that gives some like consistency. Because I do tell people the luxury of time is what they have. So when I get called to go help in a situation grooming wise that's going to require um, some training methods, basically. Um, the thing that I can't do is get it all done, which we spoke about this before, in 1 hour. What needs to happen is all this in between, especially when they're in a calm mindset at home and when nothing else is going on and things like that. And you talk about that, like, as you just mentioned, like playing a game, next to the crate when you're not actually needing the thing to happen right now. The in between, this should just be anytime that we want it, and it can be fun sometimes or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But this definitely is a great resource and tool to set somebody up, um, to again just be in that mindset. Because when people come up to me, it's so hard when someone is about to get a dog, and I'm talking like friends, family, it doesn't matter. Um, and they say, "What do I do? I'm getting a dog. What do I do?" And I'm like, my brain goes crazy because it's like, oh, you have so much to learn. Um, but it's like it's complicated and it's simple all in one thing. But the biggest thing I want people to learn is to be very, very, very discerning in their choices of who to listen to. And it's unfortunate that it has to be that hard, but we do have a whole bunch of unregulated industries when it comes to the training and the grooming and stuff like that. But once you've got some content like this out there, it makes my job easier that I can say, go read this book. Um, and then wherever they do live, at least again, they know what to look for. What's the first like three things that you say to somebody? Say you're in a bar having a drink and someone wants to make conversation. They hear you're a trainer and they're like, "Oh, I'm getting a dog next week. What do you recommend?" Um, what comes out of your mouth as the trainer?
Um, are they getting a puppy? Are they getting an adult dog?
That's a good question. I would say 9 times out of 10 when people ask me that, they're wanting to or have gotten a puppy.
Yeah, a puppy. Excuse me. I mean, I am always suggesting that people try and figure out appropriate social situations for their dogs. Get that puppy a friend. I think puppy playtime is really important. And puppy playtime done right, which should be, ideally just with one other puppy. That's a good match. Our puppy playtimes are for 4 dogs, and we usually like let 2 play at a time, and then 2 are resting, and then we swap them out again. Dogs tend to play best one-on-one, but I think it's really important at an early age that they get that kind of interaction, ideally in a place or with people who are sensitive to how they're feeling, to make sure that it's a good experience. Because we ask a lot of our dogs in New York City, especially, I think, and one thing we generally want our dogs to be social with other dogs, which in some places isn't so important. Um, so yeah, I also think with puppies, it's really important to think about how you're going to want to spend your life with that dog and start introducing that dog to whatever that life is going to contain. So if you're hoping to bring your dog on the subway to work with you every day, start that right away and figure out how you can make good associations for the dog. How can you turn this into something that they're okay with? Um, and learn a little bit about dog body language. If someone wanted to skip all the parts of my book except one, I would probably say read the part about dog body language, which also was about Cesar Millan.
Yeah,
um, invest 10 minutes of time into learning a little bit about dog body language. Yeah, figuring out like, is my dog feeling okay is so important. It keeps so much could keep so much more bad stuff from happening than it does than you know what I mean.
that's
Could keep
really
a lot of
good.
bad things from happening.
Oh, totally. And that's just made me think of, now we've got the advent of things like TikTok and stuff like that. And I've seen some really great videos where basically um whomever, I don't even know if I've seen them before, and it's a trainer or who it is, probably trainers, will break down like, oh, here's what happened in this video. But you see the dog was giving warning signs, 3 minutes
Yeah,
before a bite or something like that. But like
right,
those
for
kind of
sure.
videos can be really helpful. That's pretty cool that you do that on site.
Yeah,
Because yeah, even at like a dog park or I've seen videos of dogs playing before. I don't know who I was watching on like YouTube the other day that it was someone breaking down the meeting of 3 different dogs, and they broke it down for like 15 minutes of like the introduction and the dogs getting to know each other and
yeah.
checking each other and just like you said, but really narrating and breaking down all these subtle dog behaviors that even I wasn't picking up on all of that
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
they
there's
slow
some
down the
great,
video.
yeah, there's a lot of great stuff out there. People explaining dog body language, and I mean, it's a never endingly fascinating subject. I mean,
Yeah.
go to a dog park, record 10 minutes, you could talk about it for hours. And of course, none of us are experts. Like, no one's ever going to be completely fluent in dog body language. But nobody's ever going to be able to understand your dog's body language probably better than you, because you're living with your dog. Uh,
As long
and
as you don't think it's people body language. That is
Right. Oh, don't get me started when people are like, he's humping. Oh my God, you should have brought her dinner first.
right. Yeah, you talk about that. And it's really, really hard when we connect with them so much to not put people type emotions on them and really feel like you're so connected with your dog, and the signs that they're giving you are, well, but it feels like this, I can tell by its eyes, or whatever that is. It's like it might have
Right. We're
something
so
very
quick to
close to that.
we're very quick to to project onto them when which sometimes can be useful, but too often I think isn't.
Or it's just like a slight miscalculation, right? It's like, yeah, you are reading your dog feels this way, and you're picking up on a body language thing there. You're just off by like a little bit on what it
Mhm.
means or what they're
Right.
trying to tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
And that clarification, I think, can be life-changing sometimes for people to really understand that. And then all that happens is become way closer and have a much more relaxed life with your dog, because you get to, usually it means that you get to do more things with your dog and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it nice to
Um,
be able to do more things with your dog?
well, thank you again for being on and having this lovely talk with me today.
Oh, thank you. It was
I'll
really fun.
definitely be reaching out to you about all kinds of things in the future. So where all can people see you? You've got School for the Dogs.
I just started a Substack. It's at dogtraining.substack.com. And you can find me at anniegrossman.com or on Instagram, annie.grossman. Um, yeah, and it
And
was
we'll link all that
yeah.
below. And then you said you've got your podcast, but you just renamed the podcast How to Train Your Dog with Love and Science,
Yep,
like the book.
yep, yep.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our conversation with Annie Grossman. And check out all of our past episodes on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, on any platform you can get your podcast. Let us know what questions you have about pets or any ideas you have for topics we should cover on future episodes. Till next time.